You are going to get challenges. It's the cost of entry to a well-lived life. And so the thing that you desire in life that's doing all of the good in the world, does that first challenge prevent you from getting there?
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Tiff and Tony Show episode. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm loving today. I'm in my backyard. It's awesome to be here.
I can tell it looks really beautiful out there. A little breeze, you got some shade. It looks great.
It's a great place to work.
Good. I agree. I love working outside as well.
Yeah.
So, audience, hello. This episode is just a little bit different because we started recording kind of mid-conversation, Tony and I earlier, about what it looks like to discern between hitting a roadblock in your life or whether it's a hurdle that is meant to be overcome. So let's cut to that conversation. I hope you're able to pick up where we left off and fill in the gaps. And we hope that you feel really encouraged by how it ends.
Excellent. I'm looking at PureGame right now, and we're coming into the last quarter of our fiscal year. And every year it gets to this time of the year, and I'm up against a financial crunch as a company. And I sit there and I look at it, I'm like, okay, is this the year that we close our doors? Do I give up, turn around? Is this an obstacle to turn me around from PureGame? But then when I hold it up against my values and my desire and my passion, right? I sit there and go, no, this is just another roadblock obstacle to overcome. I've got to push through this because I know what's on the other side is good for me, beneficial for all we serve, and good for my employees and staff. So this is definitely not a turnaround moment. This is let's buckle down and raise the money that we need to get through this fiscal year once more. The challenge is creating a mirror to look into that is your goals, vision, and values.
Yeah, and the reason I'm hesitating is because I'm just thinking back on like all the challenges I face, and I'm like, even though sometimes all those things align, the things I want, no matter how much effort or do the right things to get them, don't happen. So it's like, do you wait? You literally just keep waiting your whole life for those things, even though they match and they align with all those things? Or is it like, no, just because you want something, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like being realistic. I know you and I have different views on life and how life works, but being realistic, it's like, just because I want something doesn't mean it's going to happen, or doesn't mean it's supposed to happen, or doesn't mean it's going to be as good of an outcome as I think it might have on my life or the lives of people around me. And so that's an extenuating external factor that I have zero control over if you keep getting no's and no's and no's and no's. So it's like, okay, for example, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? So sometimes it's hard to tell if you're going insane, by doing the same thing over and over, or other people's mindset is, yeah, if you want something, you work until you have it. And so you keep going and going and going and going and going until you have it. But it's like, well, if the definition of insanity is that, then how do you know if you're insane or if you're just working really hard towards something that you want?
So great points. These are great points, actually. But when you think about it, you've just said something interesting there about doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? And yes, expecting the same result. So the challenge is your desire to get something might still be in place, but maybe that first roadblock in the way is actually stopping you and asking you, is there a different way to approach this? Instead of going over it, should I go under it? Instead of trying under it, maybe I go around it. Or maybe you find a different route to get to where you're going completely, right? So maybe it turns you around and just redirects you and reroutes you to the same location, but going at it from a different angle altogether. And so I think that all of those are great points. But if you hold up your life's desire, the way that you're going, to your inner compass, your values and your vision, if you hold that up and that's true, and if it really is impacting, influencing, and changing the world in a good way, then you are going to get things to step in the way. You are going to get challenges. It's the cost of entry to a well-lived life, right? But do you let that first challenge hit you and turn you around? And so the thing that you desire in life that's doing all of the good in the world, does that first challenge prevent you from getting there? And when we look at this, if you were to sit there and say, Tony, but I really want $1 million, right? Yeah, okay, that's very self-centered and, very self-serving. And I'd say, is that really serving the good of the world? Is that your ultimate goal? Is just $1 million all you want? Or is it something bigger than that? And I think that's what you've got to ask yourself, is finding the bigger vision and the bigger purpose for your life, to then say, yes, this is what I'm going for. And now there is a challenge or a roadblock in the way, and being able to hold that up and saying, is it worth continuing and going around it, right? Is that $1 million really worth the effort to get there? I don't know. That's a question that you would have to answer yourself. I know when I look at the PureGame model, the idea of changing kids' lives and making their life better and more fulfilling is something that I see can only benefit the world. And so it's definitely worth it for me to overcome that obstacle that's in the way. It's questioning the goal and the desire that you want at the end of the picture, holding that up truly to your values and looking at the vision that you have for your life, and then saying, all right, is this a roadblock that needs to be overcome, an obstacle that needs to be overcome? Or is it a dead end where I'm like, that's the end of the road, it's time to turn around and find something else? But even then, I would say when you're turned around to find something else, you're still on a road to somewhere, and you're still going to get challenges, and you're still going to get obstacles and roadblocks. So you're still going to have to overcome something to get to where you want to go. And I think there are far too many people in the world who are living kind of a dull and boring life because they're trying to avoid all the obstacles and challenges, and they're just drifting through life thinking that this is the way the world is meant to be. And I don't know about you, that's very unfulfilling to me, and I would rather have some roadblocks and challenges to really test myself and to say, have I got what it takes to overcome this?
So taking into account all of that, Tony, because that's a lot for me to process personally, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers out there can relate, because this is such a human thing. No one can escape experiencing, whether it's roadblocks or hurdles in our lives that a lot of us refer to as challenges. So Tony, what is the challenge that we're really asking people to dig deep and focus on? And we're going to talk a little bit more about this next week, so stay tuned.
Yes. So the first challenge would be to understand your values. What do you stand for as a person? So we'll walk through the values piece next week, and we'll actually give you a tool to figure out what your values are. But then the vision. What is the vision you have for your life? Is it big enough? Is it self-serving, or is it others serving? Right? Is it creating some good in the world? And so the challenge this week is to really dig deep into what you stand for and who you are, to then be able to look at a roadblock challenge or a dead end to say, yes, I've come to the end of this journey, and it's time for me to turn around and look at a different one. In which case you've got to create another one, but we can talk about that on another day. But then if you've got the vision for your life sorted out, you can look at it and say, this is worth overcoming, and then taking the time to sit with it to say, is there another way of doing it? Challenging what you said earlier. Don't keep doing it the same way. Don't keep going at it the same way. Look at it and say, can I look at this from a different angle? Can I go over it? Can I go under it? Can I go around it? Is there a different pathway altogether? And I think that will help us overcome some of the challenges that we face in our life.
I will say, because I feel like I got to get this off my chest, sometimes or oftentimes I do feel like I try to go around the obstacle in a different way, and I still keep hitting roadblocks at every one of those turns. And so that's when it starts to feel really discouraging and frustrating. And so that's maybe a little bit more of this perspective that I'm coming from when I say that. And that being said, yes, I hear you. And it's something for me to remember that I may still hit 10 hurdles, 12 hurdles, 20 hurdles. And if it really is something that is that worthwhile and that valuable to me, then yes, it's probably worth doing another 30 hurdles.
Yes. And just to add quickly to this, because I know we haven't talked about this yet, it's a timeline thing as well. As humans, we want to control the timeline. So I want PureGame to be a national company in 5 years' time. Well, that might not be the timeline that the universe has for PureGame. It might be 10 years. It might be 15 years. It might not ever be in my lifetime. So I think letting go of that feeling of control that, dang it didn't happen exactly the date that I wanted it and exactly the way that I wanted it. I think that's also good, because if you're part way there and you've created something that's bettered the world, then you've left the world a better place.
Yes. And I think that is a beautiful place to end. Give everyone a little bit more to process and ponder and think about, because those things that are really worthwhile and valuable are worth fighting for and working towards, and to help us relinquish control of our human timeline.
Yes.
I will be pondering all of this week. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining Tony and me in this week's episode of the Tiff and Tony Show. We hope you feel encouraged and motivated to keep growing with us. If you like what we do here at PureGame, one of the best ways you can support us is by liking and sharing this video with your friends on social media. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel using the button directly below this video on YouTube. And you can donate at our website, www.thepuregame.org. And with that, we'll see you right back here next week.